The stars looked peaceful that morning. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant, drinking his third coffee of the day. He had been patrolling the outer edges of human space for 6 months now, and nothing interesting ever happened out here. Just endless black space and distant suns. "Captain, I'm picking up something weird," Lieutenant Amy Sullivan said from her station. She was the navigation officer, and she rarely sounded worried. Today, she sounded worried. Jake set down his coffee and walked over to her console. "What kind of weird?" "Big weird. Really big. There are ships coming out of hyperspace near New Haven Colony. Lots of them. And they're not ours." Jake's stomach dropped. New Haven was home to 15 million people. It was a farming colony, peaceful and quiet. They had maybe 3 defense satellites and a small security force. Nothing that could handle a real threat. "Get me a visual," Jake ordered. "And wake up everyone on this ship now." The main screen flickered to life. What Jake saw made his blood run cold. The ships were massive, bigger than anything humanity had ever built. They were dark red and black with sharp angles that looked designed to inspire fear. There had to be at least 50 of them, just hanging there in space above New Haven like giant predators. "Are they responding to hails?" Jake asked. "Nothing, sir. New Haven is trying to contact them, but they're just sitting there." On New Haven's surface, Commander Ben Carter stood in the colony's command center. He was a big man with gray hair and a calm voice that people trusted. Right now, his calm was being tested. The screens showed the alien fleet in orbit, and every sensor they had was screaming warnings. "Keep broadcasting on all frequencies," Ben told his communications officer. "Tell them we're peaceful. Tell them we want to talk." The alien ships finally responded, but not with words. A single message came through, translated by their computers into English. The words were simple and cold. "You will surrender all territories. You will submit to the Korthax Dominion. Resistance means death. You have 1 hour." Ben felt everyone in the command center looking at him. "Get me a line to Earth, now, and start evacuating civilians to the underground shelters." "Sir, the shelters can only hold maybe 1 million people. We have 15 million on this planet." "Then get as many as you can," Ben said quietly. "And pray these things are bluffing." They weren't bluffing. 58 minutes later, the Korthax ships opened fire. Ben watched on the screens as beams of white-hot energy lanced down from orbit. The first target was the capital city. 4 million people lived there. The energy beams hit the ground and everything just vanished. Buildings, streets, people, everything turned into superheated plasma. The explosion could be seen from space. Then they hit the next city. And the next? They were targeting population centers first, wiping out millions of people in seconds. The southern continent, where most of the colony's people lived, was being systematically destroyed. "They're killing everyone," someone whispered in the command center. Ben grabbed the microphone. He knew Earth would get this message eventually. He knew the Korthax would probably hear it too. He didn't care. "This is Commander Ben Carter of New Haven Colony. The Korthax Dominion is committing genocide. They gave us no real chance to surrender. They just started killing. To anyone who hears this, don't negotiate with them. Don't trust them. And show them what we're made of." The command center took a direct hit 30 seconds later. On the Defiant, Jake and his crew watched everything. They were too far away to help, too small to fight. All they could do was record it. Amy was crying quietly at her station. Other crew members looked sick. "Captain, we need to run," his first officer said. "If they see us, we're dead." Jake nodded slowly. "Set course for the nearest communications relay. We need to get this recording to Earth. They need to see what these things did." The Defiant turned and jumped to hyperspace, leaving the burning planet behind. The Korthax had destroyed New Haven in 4 hours. 15 million people were dead. The aliens left nothing but a scarred, radioactive world. The message reached Earth 6 days later. Dr. Lisa Graham was in her lab on Waypoint 7 research station when the news broke. She was a xenobiologist who studied alien life, and she had always believed that contact with aliens would be peaceful. She had been wrong. She watched the footage from New Haven over and over. The cold, methodical way the Korthax had killed everyone. They had targeted schools, hospitals. They had made sure to cause maximum death and suffering. It wasn't war. It was extermination. Lisa's hands shook as she typed up her analysis. Based on the Korthax ship designs and their tactics, they were a species that had done this before. They were conquerors. They probably had a huge empire and thought humans would be easy prey. They thought one demonstration of power would make humanity surrender. They had no idea who they were dealing with. On Earth, in the military command center deep under the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Helen Price read Commander Ben Carter's last message. She read it 3 times. Then she called a meeting of every military leader, scientist, and politician who mattered. "They want to exterminate us," Helen said simply. "They've shown us what they're capable of. They've shown us they don't negotiate, don't compromise, and don't care about innocent lives. So here's what we're going to do." She pulled up star maps, weapon designs, and strategic plans that had been gathering dust for decades. Weapons that violated treaties, tactics that were considered too brutal for civilized warfare, technologies that had been locked away because they were too dangerous. "We're going to stop being civilized," Helen continued. "We're going to take off the gloves. We're going to show the Korthax that humanity is peaceful by choice, not because we can't fight. And we're going to make them regret ever hearing the word human." In the meeting room, nobody argued. They had all seen the footage. They had all seen the children's hospitals burning. "What do you need?" the president asked. "Everything," Helen replied. "And I need everyone to understand that we're not just fighting to win. We're fighting to make sure nobody ever tries this again. We're going to make an example of the Korthax that the whole galaxy will remember." The orders went out within hours. Every shipyard started working triple shifts. Every research facility began dusting off their most dangerous projects. Every soldier, sailor, and pilot was called up. The entire human race across 47 star systems mobilized for total war. The Korthax probably thought they had time. They probably thought humans would panic, argue, maybe surrender. They probably thought they could take system after system without real resistance. They were about to learn that humans were very good at holding grudges, and when someone killed 15 million of them without mercy, humans had a special way of responding. It was time to show the Korthax what hell really looked like. Captain Greg Stone commanded a ship that wasn't supposed to exist. The Shadow was a stealth destroyer that could hide anywhere. In asteroid fields, behind moons, even in the corona of a star. The Korthax had better ships and bigger guns, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't see. "Contact bearing 270, his sensor officer whispered. The whole crew spoke in whispers when they were hunting. It helped them stay focused. Greg studied the display. A Korthax supply convoy, 3 cargo ships with 2 escort frigates. Easy prey. Load torpedo tubes 1 through 6. Targeting solution on the escorts first. We take them out fast, then the cargo ships can't run. Solution locked. Fire. The Shadow's torpedoes were special. They were coated in the same stealth material as the ship itself. The Korthax escorts never saw them coming. Both frigates exploded within seconds of each other. The cargo ships tried to run, but they were too slow and too heavy. "Finish them," Greg ordered. More torpedoes launched. Within 5 minutes, the entire convoy was debris. Greg checked his mission log. That made 16 Korthax supply convoys destroyed this month. The enemy had to be feeling the pinch by now. "Set course for Rally Point Delta, and someone make coffee. We've got a long flight ahead." The Shadow vanished back into the dark, leaving no trace it had ever been there. Across human space, dozens of ships like it hunted Korthax convoys. Death by 1,000 cuts. On Mars, engineer Julie Parker stared at her latest creation with mixed feelings. The Prometheus protocol was brilliant. It was also one of the most devious things she had ever designed. The concept was simple. Take a ship, load it with antimatter, program an AI to pretend the ship was damaged and drifting. When Korthax ships approached to investigate or salvage, the AI would wait until they were close. "Then boom, are you sure about this?" her assistant asked. Julie nodded slowly. "The Korthax have shown they'll approach disabled human vessels. They're looking for technology to study. We're going to make them pay for their curiosity." The first Prometheus ship launched a week later. It drifted into a system the Korthax had recently captured, sending automated distress signals. A Korthax science vessel approached to investigate. The AI waited until the alien ship was alongside, then detonated. The explosion took out the science vessel and 2 other Korthax ships that had been nearby. The shockwave was visible from 3 planets. Julie watched the results from her lab. She should have felt proud. Instead, she felt tired. This was necessary. The Korthax had started this. But she wondered what kind of person she was becoming. "Deploy the next batch," she said quietly, "and may God forgive us." By the end of the month, 12 Korthax capital ships had been destroyed by Prometheus protocol vessels. The enemy learned to avoid human derelicts entirely, which meant they couldn't salvage technology or rescue survivors. Another small victory. Meanwhile, someone called Cypher was fighting a different kind of war. Nobody knew Cypher's real name. Some said it was one person. Others said it was a whole team. The truth was, Cypher was Alex Chen, a 24-year-old hacker who had turned his skills toward the war effort. Alex sat in a dark room surrounded by screens, his fingers flying across keyboards. He had cracked the Korthax military network 3 weeks ago. Since then, he had been causing chaos. Let's see, Alex muttered to himself. What should we do today? Oh, I know. Let's tell Fleet Commander Zakrul that Fleet Commander Takavor is planning to betray him. Alex crafted a fake message, made it look like it came from Takavor's ship, and injected it into Zakrul's communication system. Within hours, the two Korthax commanders were screaming at each other over encrypted channels. Their fleets actually started shooting at each other before higher command stepped in. Idiots. Alex laughed. They trust their technology too much. They think encryption means security. They have no idea how deep I'm in their systems. He pulled up another screen showing Korthax battle plans. Oh, they're planning to attack the Proxima colony next week. Let's just change those coordinates a little bit. Send them to an empty system instead. And maybe mention there's a huge human fleet waiting there. Watch them waste a week searching for nothing. Alex's war was invisible, but it was just as deadly. Every fake order he created caused confusion. Every false intelligence report he planted made the Korthax doubt their own information. He was turning their entire command structure against itself. On the ground, Colonel Steve Harris fought a different kind of war. His troops were trapped on an occupied colony world called Haven's Rest. The Korthax had invaded 6 months ago and held all the major cities. They thought they controlled the planet. They were wrong. Steve crouched in the ruins of a factory watching Korthax patrol patterns. His soldiers were hidden throughout the city, watching and waiting. They didn't fight pitched battles. That would be suicide. Instead, they made the Korthax afraid. Team 2, you ready? Steve whispered into his radio. Ready, sir. Target acquired. Execute. 5 blocks away, a Korthax patrol disappeared. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. No gunfire. No explosions, just gone. Their bodies would turn up later in impossible places. On rooftops, inside locked buildings. Arranged in patterns that meant nothing to humans but terrified the Korthax. The aliens started calling humans ghost killers. They refused to patrol alone. Some refused to patrol at all. Their commanders had to threaten them with execution to keep them doing their jobs. Sir, we're getting reports that some Korthax soldiers are going insane. One of Steve's sergeants reported. They're seeing things that aren't there. Hearing whispers in the dark, Steve nodded. Good, keep it up. We can't beat them in open combat, but we can make them think twice about staying here. Dr. Linda Foster studied the Korthax from a research station that had somehow avoided detection. She was a xenopsychologist, and she had been analyzing every bit of Korthax communication and behavior she could find. They have a rigid honor culture, Linda explained to the military officers on the video call. They value victory, but they value honorable victory more. A commander who wins through retreat or deception is seen as shameful. How does that help us? Someone asked. Linda smiled. We force them into situations where the only smart move is retreat. We make their commanders choose between dying honorably or winning dishonorably. Based on what I've seen, at least 30% will choose death. That's insane, like that's their culture, and we're going to exploit it. The plan was put into action immediately. Human forces started creating scenarios where Korthax commanders had clear paths to retreat, but taking them would look cowardly. Time and again, Korthax commanders chose to fight hopeless battles rather than accept the shame of retreat. Human casualties went down. Korthax casualties went up, and several Korthax commanders committed ritual suicide after being dishonored in battle. Admiral Helen Price reviewed all the reports in her office. The war was 18 months old now. Humanity had lost 8 colonies and billions of people. But the Korthax advance had stopped. More than stopped. They were being pushed back. We're winning, her chief of staff said. No, Helen corrected. We're surviving. Winning comes next. She pulled up a star map showing Korthax territory. They still have hundreds of systems. Thousands of ships. Billions of soldiers. We've hurt them, but we haven't broken them. Not yet. What do you recommend? Helen's expression was cold. We go for the throat. We find their homeworld. and we make them understand that attacking humanity was the worst mistake their species ever made. Across human space, the war machine kept grinding forward. Factories produced weapons day and night. Scientists developed new horrors. Soldiers trained for the battles to come. And every single human, from Earth to the furthest colony, understood one simple truth. The Korthax had wanted to exterminate humanity. Now humanity was going to teach them why that was impossible. Not because humans were stronger or tougher, but because humans were creative, adaptable, and absolutely refused to die quietly. The Korthax Empire had conquered 100 species over 1,000 years. They had faced warriors, merchants, scientists, and priests. They had never faced anything like humanity. In their command ships, Korthax admirals looked at casualty reports with growing horror. Their losses were mounting. Their soldiers were demoralized. Some of their commanders were going mad. And worst of all, the humans showed no signs of stopping. Supreme Commander Vakthor read the reports with growing dread. The humans weren't fighting like any species should fight. They cheated, they lied, they used weapons that violated every civilized rule of war, and they were good at it. How did our intelligence fail so badly? Vakthor demanded. How did we not know what these humans were capable of? His subordinates had no answers. They had studied humans before the invasion. They had seen a young species that valued peace and cooperation. They had thought humans would be easy to conquer. They had been wrong. Terribly, fatally wrong. Prepare the fleet, Vakthor ordered. We will strike at their homeworld directly. We will cut the head off this beast and end this war. It was a desperate plan. But Vakthor was desperate. The humans had to be stopped. And if attacking Earth directly wouldn't stop them, nothing would. The Korthax made their second mistake 3 weeks after destroying New Haven. They broadcast their attack across every human communication channel. The message showed them destroying another colony called Green River. They made sure humans could see every detail, every explosion, every death. They wanted humanity to be afraid. Instead, humanity got angry. At the Titan Black Site, buried deep inside Saturn's largest moon, Dr. Nathan Cross hadn't slept in 4 days. His team of scientists worked around the clock in a facility that officially didn't exist. They were building weapons that most people thought were impossible or too horrible to use. How long until the kinetic accelerator is ready? Nathan asked his lead engineer. 2 weeks, maybe less. We're pushing the magnetic coils to their limit. But we can get projectiles up to 98% light speed. When those things hit, they'll have the force of a nuclear bomb, and they can't be stopped or deflected. Nathan nodded. Good, what about the nanite swarms? A young woman named Karen looked up from her workstation. The self-replication programming is stable. Once we deploy them on a Korthax ship, they'll spread to every connected vessel. They'll eat through hull plating, electronics, life support, everything. The ships will just fall apart. Excellent. And the quantum bombs? Ready for testing. We link multiple bombs through quantum entanglement. Set one off and they all detonate simultaneously across different star systems. The Korthax won't know what hit them. Nathan allowed himself a grim smile. Before the war, these weapons would have gotten him arrested. Now he was a hero. Funny how things changed when someone was trying to kill your entire species. Admiral Helen Price walked through the new shipyards on Mars. Thousands of workers labored day and night, building warships on an assembly line. These weren't exploration vessels or cargo ships. These were designed for one purpose, killing Korthax. How many can we produce per month? Helen asked the foreman. Right now, 30 capital ships. But we're opening 2 more facilities on Titan and Europa. By next month, we'll be up to 100 ships monthly. Not fast enough. The Korthax are hitting another colony every 2 weeks. We need to go on the offensive. Admiral, with respect, we're doing our best. We've never built ships this fast before. Helen put a hand on his shoulder. I know, and you're all doing incredible work. But every day we wait, more people die. So push harder. Sleep less. We'll win this war, but only if we can match their numbers. Meanwhile, in a secret facility on Earth, Major Pete Davis was suiting up for humanity's first counterattack. He led a special operations team of 12 soldiers, all volunteers, all experts. They were about to do something insane. Everyone clear on the mission? Pete asked his team. They nodded. They were going to infiltrate a Korthax staging world using new phase shift technology that made them nearly invisible. Their target was the fuel production facility that supplied the Korthax fleet. Destroy it and the enemy's advance would stall. Remember, we're not trying to be quiet. We want them to know we did this. We want them scared. The team loaded into a small stealth ship. It was cramped, uncomfortable, and packed with enough explosives to level a small city. Perfect. The journey took 3 days. They jumped from system to system, avoiding Korthax patrols. When they reached the staging world, Pete watched through the viewport as massive Korthax carriers loaded supplies. Thousands of aliens moved around the surface bases like ants. "Take us down behind that mountain range," Pete ordered, "and keep us in phase shift mode until we're on the ground." The landing was smooth. The team moved out, each soldier carrying enough firepower to take on a platoon. The phase shift technology worked perfectly. Korthax guards looked right at them and saw nothing. They reached the fuel facility at midnight local time. It was enormous, with storage tanks the size of skyscrapers. Pete and his team planted shaped charges at every structural weak point. They worked fast and efficient, like they had practiced 1,000 times. "Charges set," Pete radioed. "Everyone back to the ship. We've got 10 minutes. They were halfway back when a Korthax patrol stumbled onto their landing site. The aliens couldn't see the ship, but they could see the disturbed ground. One of them started calling for backup. "Well, so much for a clean exit," Pete muttered. "Weapons free. Take them down." The team dropped their phase shift and opened fire. Human weapons ripped through Korthax armor like paper. The aliens barely had time to scream before they were dead. More patrols rushed toward the sound of gunfire. "Get on the ship," Pete shouted. "We're leaving now." The stealth ship lifted off just as the charges detonated. The fuel facility exploded with the force of a small sun. The shockwave knocked out communications across half the planet. Secondary explosions rippled through the base as stored ammunition and fuel went up. From orbit, Pete watched the destruction. Mission accomplished. Sending the message now. He broadcast on all Korthax frequencies. The message was simple. Just getting started. The Korthax response was swift and brutal. They attacked another human colony, killing millions more. They thought they were teaching humanity a lesson. They didn't realize humanity was learning different lessons about what it took to win. Lieutenant Lucy Morgan climbed into her fighter cockpit with a grim expression. She was part of a new squadron that would test experimental tactics against the Korthax. Her fighter was fast and agile, but tiny compared to Korthax cruisers. She should have been terrified she wasn't. "All wings report in," the squadron leader called. "Wing 2 ready. Wing 3 ready. Wing 4 ready." Lucy keyed her microphone. "Wing 5 ready. Let's do this." They jumped into the combat zone where a Korthax cruiser was bombarding a mining station. The cruiser was huge, bristling with weapons. Standard tactics said fighters couldn't damage something that big. Lucy and her squadron weren't using standard tactics. "Remember the drill," the squadron leader said. "Swarm pattern alpha. AI drones make the first pass." 50 AI-controlled drone fighters screamed toward the Korthax cruiser. The enemy's defensive guns opened up, destroying drones by the dozens. But there were too many. The drones crashed into the cruiser's hull, each one carrying a small nuclear warhead. Explosions rippled across the ship's armor. "Now, human pilots, attack Vector Bravo!" Lucy and the other human pilots dove through the gap the drones had created. Their weapons weren't powerful enough to penetrate the cruiser's main armor, but the drones had blown holes in it. Lucy fired her missiles into the exposed sections, targeting the reactor core. Good hits. "Good hits, breaking off!" The cruiser tried to rotate to bring its guns to bear, but it was too slow. More missiles found their mark. The ship's reactor went critical. "All fighters, get clear." Lucy pushed her fighter to maximum speed. Behind her, the Korthax cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash. First confirmed kill of a Korthax capital ship by human fighters. "That's one," Lucy said into her radio. "How many more do they have?" "Thousands," someone replied. "Better get to work then." Back on Earth, CIA Director Karen Wells listened to intercepted Korthax communications. Her analysts had been working around the clock to crack their encryption. They had finally succeeded. What they were hearing was fascinating. "They're scared," one analyst reported. "The Korthax commanders are reporting that humans don't fight like any enemy they've encountered. We're unpredictable. We use tactics they consider dishonorable. They don't know how to counter us." Karen smiled coldly. "Good, let's make it worse. I want psychological warfare protocols implemented immediately. Hack their communications. Feed them false data. Make them paranoid. Make them think we're everywhere." "Ma'am, some of these proposals are pretty extreme." "So is genocide," Karen replied. "The Korthax declared a war of extermination. We're just giving them what they asked for. Now get to work. Within days, Korthak's ship started receiving strange transmissions, messages that claimed entire fleets had been destroyed, reports of human superweapons that could destroy stars, footage that appeared to show humans surviving in hard vacuum without suits. Most of it was fake, but enough was real that the Korthaks couldn't tell the difference. Admiral Helen Price watched the reports coming in from all fronts. The war was barely 2 months old, and humanity had already adapted in ways the Korthaks couldn't predict. They had expected humans to fight like the other species they had conquered. Honorable, predictable, stupid. Humans fought dirty. They cheated, they lied. They used weapons that made even their own people uncomfortable. And they were just getting started. Status report, Helen ordered. The Korthaks have slowed their advance. They're consolidating their forces. Intelligence suggests they're confused by our tactics. Good, Helen said. Let them be confused. Because Phase 2 starts tomorrow, and they're really going to hate what comes next. Admiral Helen Price stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at the display showing the entire solar system. Red markers indicated incoming Korthaks forces. There were a lot of red markers. They're really doing it, her tactical officer said quietly. They're bringing their main fleet to Earth. Helen smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Good, we've been waiting for them. 6 months ago, Helen had predicted this exact scenario. The Korthaks were losing the guerrilla war in human space. They were bleeding resources and morale. They would eventually get desperate and try one massive strike to end the war. And there was only one target that made sense: Earth itself. So Helen had turned Earth into a trap. Status of defensive platforms. All 200 platforms are online and ready. Each one has enough firepower to take out a cruiser. Minefield status. 12,000 mines deployed along predicted entry vectors. Mix of antimatter, plasma, and kinetic types. Fleet status. 80 capital ships in position. Another 40 in reserve. All cruiser ready, Helen nodded. And the surprise? The surprise is ready, Admiral. They're not going to see it coming. Supreme Commander Vakthor led his fleet personally. Nearly 800 ships, the largest Korthaks force ever assembled. Enough firepower to crack a planet. He would emerge from hyperspace, destroy Earth's defenses, and bombard the planet until the humans surrendered. All ships prepare for hyperspace exit, Vakthor ordered. When we emerge, spread into attack formation immediately. Target all military installations first, then infrastructure. We will give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will begin planetary bombardment. His fleet dropped out of hyperspace right on target. Earth hung before them, blue and beautiful. Vakthor opened his mouth to give the attack order. That's when the trap closed. The first indication something was wrong came when half his fleet reported collision warnings. The mines were invisible to Korthak sensors until they activated. Hundreds of ships took direct hits. Antimatter explosions turned cruisers into clouds of gas. Plasma mines melted through hull armor. Kinetic mines punched holes through reactors. Evasive maneuvers, Vakthor screamed. All ships scatter. But there was nowhere to scatter to. The mines were everywhere. And then the defensive platforms opened fire. 200 weapons platforms, each the size of a small ship, unleashed hell. Railguns fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. Lasers cut through ship hulls like butter. Missile swarms blotted out the stars. The Korthak's fleet, packed tight for the attack run, took devastating casualties. We're losing ships too fast, someone reported. We've lost over 200 vessels in the first 5 minutes. Fight back, Vakthor ordered. Destroy those platforms. The Korthak's fleet rallied and started returning fire. Platforms began exploding. But for every platform destroyed, 3 more Korthak ships died. And then the human fleet arrived. 80 human capital ships dropped out of hyperspace behind the Korthak's fleet. These weren't the small, lightly armed vessels the Korthaks had been fighting. These were new battleships built in secret over the last 18 months. Each one was designed for one purpose: killing Korthak ships. All ships open fire, Helen ordered calmly. Show them what we've built. The human battleships unleashed weapons the Korthaks had never seen before. Graviton beams that crushed ships like tin cans. Quantum torpedoes that ignored shields entirely. Plasma cannons that burned at temperatures found only in stars. Captain Nina Scott commanded the assault carrier Independence, one of the new battleships. She watched her tactical display with grim satisfaction as her weapons tore through Korthak's cruisers. Target the command ship, Nina ordered. That big one in the center? I want it crippled, not destroyed. We need prisoners. Her weapons officer grinned. Yes, ma'am, firing. The Independence's main gun was a magnetic accelerator that could punch through any armor. The projectile hit Vakthor's command ship dead center, destroying its engines and weapons but leaving the command section intact. The Battle of Terra lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 580 Korthak ships were destroyed. Another 100 were crippled and captured. Only a handful escaped. The rest limped away, broken and demoralized. Human losses were significant but manageable. 40 platforms destroyed, 12 battleships damaged, 3 destroyed. Compared to what they'd inflicted on the Korthaks, it was a victory beyond anything they'd hoped for. Helen watched the enemy retreat on her displays. Let them go. Let them run home and tell everyone what happened here. But she wasn't done, not even close. Commander Ryan Bell worked in intelligence, and he'd been searching for the Korthak's homeworld for months. The enemy was good at hiding it. They used fake coordinates in their communications. They jumped through multiple systems to hide their routes. They were paranoid about anyone finding their home. Ryan was better at finding things than they were at hiding them. I've got it, Ryan announced to his team, cross-referencing ship movements, supply routes, and communication delays. There's only one system that fits all the data. This is their homeworld. He pulled up a star map showing a red giant star with 7 planets. Third planet. Population estimated at 40 billion. It's the heart of their empire. The information reached Admiral Helen within hours. She called another meeting with military leadership and the president. We have an opportunity, Helen said. The Korthaks are reeling from their defeat at Earth. Their morale is broken. Their fleets are scattered. We can hit them now where it hurts most. You want to attack their homeworld? The president asked. Not attack. Send a message. A message they'll never forget. Captain Nina Scott volunteered to lead the mission. Her ship, the Independence, was the fastest of the new battleships. With a small strike force of stealth ships, she could reach the Korthaks' homeworld before they recovered from their defeat at Earth. The journey took 2 weeks. Nina's fleet used uncharted hyperspace routes that Ryan's intelligence team had discovered. They avoided every Korthak's patrol and sensor network. When they finally emerged in the enemy home system, they were completely undetected. There it is, Nina's sensor officer said quietly. Their homeworld. I'm reading massive population centers. Orbital infrastructure. Defense satellites. If we wanted to destroy this place, we could. That's not our mission, Nina reminded him. Deploy the probe. The probe was a von Neumann machine, a self-replicating construction robot. It was programmed to do one thing: build a Dyson swarm around the Korthak sun. The swarm wouldn't be big enough to actually harvest all the star's energy, but it would be visible from the planet's surface. It would be a symbol. Probe deployed and active, the science officer reported. It's already beginning construction. The Korthaks will see the structures within hours. Good. Now broadcast the message. All frequencies. The message was simple. It played on every Korthak's communication device in the system. This is Captain Nina Scott of the human fleet. We could have destroyed your homeworld. We could have killed your 40 billion people the way you killed ours. We chose not to. We're building this Dyson swarm to show you what we're capable of. We can take your sun. We can end your entire civilization. But we won't, not today. This is your one and only warning. End this war. Surrender. Or next time we come back, we won't be so merciful. Nina watched the Korthak's response unfold on her sensors. Ships scrambled from orbital stations. Weapons platforms activated, but they were too slow and too confused. By the time they figured out where the message came from, Nina's fleet was already jumping to hyperspace. Mission accomplished, Nina reported, returning to human space. On the Korthak's homeworld, Supreme Commander Vakthor watched the strange structures growing around his sun. He read the human message over and over. They had been here. Right here. They could have destroyed everything, but they hadn't. Vakthor was a warrior. He had commanded fleets for 30 years. He had conquered a dozen species. But he had never felt fear like this. The humans were better warriors than the Korthaks. Better strategists. Better innovators. And most terrifying of all, they could show mercy when the Korthaks had shown none. Get me a communication line to the human leadership, Vakthor said quietly. Tell them we wish to negotiate. His subordinates stared at him in shock. Commander, we cannot surrender. Our honor demands we fight to the last. Our honor? Vakthor laughed bitterly. We attacked a peaceful species and tried to exterminate them. Where was our honor then? The humans have shown us what real strength looks like. They could have destroyed our homeworld, but they spared us. That is a kind of honor we've never understood. He turned to face his officers. Send the message. This war is over. We lost the moment we underestimated what humans were capable of. Back on Earth, Admiral Helen received the surrender request with cautious satisfaction. Verify it's legitimate, and have our diplomatic team standing by. We're not negotiating from weakness. Make sure they understand that. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. The war was over. Humanity had won, not through superior numbers or technology, but through adaptability, creativity, and sheer determination. Helen allowed herself a small smile. The Korthax had brought hell to humanity. Humanity had brought something worse back. And the entire galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about messing with Earth. The Treaty of Proxima was signed 3 months after the Korthax surrender request. Ambassador Charles Webb led the human negotiating team. He was a careful man, patient and thorough. He made sure every word in the treaty was exactly right. The Korthax sat across the table looking defeated. Their delegation was led by Envoy Ralmak, a younger Korthax who had argued for ending the war months earlier. He looked at the treaty terms with resigned acceptance. You're demanding 17 star systems, Ralmak said. That's a significant portion of our territory. Charles nodded calmly. You destroyed 8 of our colonies, killed billions of our people. 17 systems is generous. We could have demanded more. You're also requiring war reparations, resources, technology, industrial output for the next 50 years. Yes, you broke our worlds. Now you'll help rebuild them. Ralmak looked at the next clause. Human military observers in our fleet. Oversight of our weapons development. Restrictions on our ship production. You're turning us into a client state. Charles leaned forward. No, we're making sure you never try this again. With anyone. You started a war of extermination. We're ending your ability to do that to another species. And if we refuse? Charles's expression didn't change. Then Captain Scott goes back to your homeworld and finishes what she started. We showed mercy once. We won't show it again. Ralmak signed the treaty. President Maria Santos addressed humanity from the rebuilt colony of New Haven. The planet was still scarred, but cities were rising from the ashes. People were coming home. 3 years ago, the Korthax Dominion attacked us without warning or mercy. They killed billions of our people. They thought we would be easy prey. They thought we would surrender after seeing their power. Maria paused, looking directly into the camera. They were wrong. We didn't want this war. We didn't start this war. But we sure as hell finished it. The crowd erupted in cheers. Maria waited for them to quiet down. Today we stand victorious. The Korthax have surrendered. They've agreed to our terms. They've learned what the rest of the galaxy is about to learn. Humanity is peaceful by choice, not because we can't fight. When pushed, we don't just push back. We win. More cheers. Maria's expression grew serious. But victory has a cost. We lost 8 colonies, billions of people, and we became something we never wanted to be. Warriors. Killers. We used weapons that made us uncomfortable. We did things that haunt us. We'll carry those scars for generations. She looked up at the sky. But we survived. And now we make sure it was worth it. We rebuild. We remember. And we make sure nobody ever tries this again. The Galactic Council met on a neutral station orbiting a white dwarf star. 23 species had representatives there. Until recently, humans weren't important enough to attend. That had changed. Ambassador Charles Webb walked into the council chamber for the first time. Every alien in the room turned to look at him. He saw fear in some of their expressions, respect in others, curiosity in most. The human delegation recognizes you, the council leader said. You may speak. Charles nodded politely. Thank you. I'll be brief. Humanity is applying for full membership in this council. We believe we've demonstrated our capability to contribute to galactic security. One of the alien delegates, an insectoid creature from a species called the Trell, clicked its mandibles. You demonstrated your capability for warfare. That's not the same as contributing to peace. We didn't start that war, Charles replied. The Korthax did. They attacked us without provocation. We simply refused to die. Your methods were brutal, another delegate said. You used weapons that violate multiple treaties. Weapons we had to develop because the Korthax were trying to exterminate us. We did what was necessary to survive. No more, no less. The council leader studied Charles carefully. The Korthax were one of the most powerful military forces in this region. You defeated them in 3 years. Frankly, many of us are worried about what humanity might do with that power. Charles smiled slightly. Then you understand deterrence. We don't want more wars, but if someone attacks us or our allies, they'll face the same response the Korthax did. We're not interested in conquest. We're interested in security, for ourselves and for our friends. The vote took 2 hours. When it finished, humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Along with membership came trade agreements, technology exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. 3 species asked to become human allies immediately. The galaxy had learned to respect Earth, but not everyone was celebrating. Captain Jake Morrison sat in a bar on Mars nursing a whiskey. He was a hero now, the man who had witnessed the destruction of New Haven and gotten the evidence to Earth. Medals covered his dress uniform. People asked for his autograph. He felt empty. Mind if I sit? A voice asked. Jake looked up. Lieutenant Amy Sullivan, his former navigation officer, stood there with her own drink. She looked as tired as he felt. Free Galaxy, Jake said. Sit if you want. They drank in silence for a while. Around them, other veterans filled the bar. Most of them had the same look. Distant, haunted, trying to figure out how to be normal again. Do you remember what we were like before the war? Amy asked quietly. Jake nodded. We were explorers, scientists, peaceful. We believed in talking through problems, not shooting them. What are we now? Survivors, killers, winners, take your pick. Amy swirled her drink. I killed thousands of Korthax, maybe tens of thousands. I targeted their supply ships, their medical vessels, their transports. I told myself it was war and it was necessary, but I still see their faces sometimes. They started it, Jake said automatically. I know, and we finished it. But I'm not sure I like who we had to become to do that. Jake had no answer. Around the bar, similar conversations were happening. Veterans trying to reconcile what they'd done with who they thought they were. A young woman approached their table nervously. Excuse me, are you Captain Morrison? I just wanted to say thank you. My family was on New Haven. They didn't make it. But you made sure they didn't die for nothing. Jake forced a smile. You're welcome. The woman left. Amy looked at Jake with sad eyes. Does it help? Knowing we avenged them? No, Jake said honestly. But it helps knowing we made sure nobody else goes through what they did. At the Titan Black site, Dr. Nathan Cross watched as his weapons were cataloged and sealed. The kinetic accelerators, the nanite swarms, the quantum bombs, all of it went into a vault deep inside the moon. An AI system guarded it, programmed to only open if humanity faced extinction again. Nathan had insisted on adding the inscription himself. Break glass in case of emergency. Pray you never have to. His assistant watched him work. Do you think we'll ever need these again? Nathan shook his head. I hope not. But if we do, they'll be here ready, because the galaxy knows now that humans can fight. What they need to learn is that we'd rather not. He sealed the final vault and walked away. Behind him, the most dangerous weapons humanity had ever created sat in the dark waiting, hoping to never be needed again. The war had changed humanity in ways that would take generations to fully understand. They had been forced to become warriors. They had discovered they were very, very good at it. And now they had to figure out how to live with that knowledge. 6 months after the treaty signing, the Galactic Council faced a new crisis. A species called the Vextar was threatening violence against their neighbors. They were aggressive, confident, and convinced they could take what they wanted through force. The council met to discuss responses. Ambassador Charles Webb listened to the debate for an hour. Finally, he asked to speak. With your permission, I'd like to show the Vextar delegation something. The council leader nodded. Charles activated a holographic display. It showed the war against the Korthax. Every battle, every tactic, every weapon. The footage was edited to be as impressive and terrifying as possible. The Vextar delegation watched in growing silence. When the footage ended showing the Dyson swarm construction around the Korthax homeworld, Charles spoke quietly. The Korthax thought they could intimidate humanity. They were wrong. They brought hell to us. We brought something worse back. They started a war of extermination. We ended it on our terms. And if you think you can do better than they did, well, we're ready to teach you the same lesson. The Vextar delegation requested a recess. When they returned, they announced they would be seeking peaceful negotiations with their neighbors. Another council member, a reptilian being from a peaceful trader species, approached Charles after the meeting. "You've changed the balance of power in this region. Everyone is afraid of humanity now." Charles nodded. "Good, let them be afraid. Not because we want to hurt anyone, but because fear prevents wars. The Korthax weren't afraid of us. They should have been. And what happens when humanity becomes corrupted by this power? What happens when you become what the Korthax were?" Charles met the alien's eyes steadily. "Then I hope someone stops us the same way we stopped them. But until that day comes, we'll use our power to keep the peace, because we remember what it's like to be the victims, and we'll never let it happen again. Not to us and not to anyone else." Back on Earth, on a hill overlooking the site where New Haven's capital city once stood, a memorial was unveiled. It listed the names of every person who died in the Korthax War, billions of names carved into black stone.